There are multiple realities on the earth at this time that interact on the physical plane and overlap each other, but are separate and distinct and have different rules. So originally, Earth had one reality. It was a reality that all humans on Earth, on all continents, inhabited, and it was a reality that could be characterized by the characteristic of animism. And if you are familiar with indigenous cultures, you can imagine the qualities of that reality. Since I don't live in that reality and didn't grow up in that reality, I can see it, but I wouldn't go as far as to characterize it other than that basic level of being fully embedded and connected with all of the animate beings on the earth. Yeah, with no separation. Not no separation. There's awareness of separation, but there's also awareness of no separation, and many practices to bridge that separation in their minds, which is where that separation usually, where it exists. So when Western culture at some point began to be a reality was formed that can be characterized by reductionism, science, and Christianity, and various cultures that can be characterized by the practices of reducing things to parts and seeing things as separate. I think we're all pretty familiar with that culture and that reality. So reality was created by that culture, which now the majority of the modern capitalist, science-based, reductionist cultures live in, and people live in. So that's another reality. And then more recently, my information is that this came about as a reality, a major reality in the early 60s, the reality of multi-dimensional existence. So these are the three major realities that have many people in them. There are also many, many smaller realities that have fewer people living in them. So the main takeaway here is that you might meet people who have very different beliefs and ways of being and ways of interacting with everything, and they are consistent with their reality. And so even though it seems like they don't understand the way things really are, that is a perspective that you have from your own reality. And they are actually entirely consistent with their reality. And the way they see the world is actually totally true for them. There is the possibility of changing realities. So there are choice points where a person encountering a different reality can move from the one that they were originally in into another one. And it's not so much like you can step back and forth. It's more like you choose one. Although there are some people that still, like, they haven't made the choice yet. So they might have a foot, as it were, in either reality and are still choosing which one they are going to move forward into. And there are also people and times who can create kind of a softening of the edges of realities and create a space where the three realities or other realities are less distinct and everyone can exist in one reality. I know of people who take other people out into nature, for instance, who can create spaces where the distinctions between realities for each of the people are softened, and there can be a sense of all being in the same reality, all being on the same page, you might say. And I'm sure that there's lots of other contexts where that can be created. And I'm interested to hear if anyone resonates with this idea and can tell me about other spaces or contexts where they have noticed that this softening can be created. There's also certain people who can create a softening, who can be in their own reality and be with somebody in another reality, and create a space that they are in the same place. It's hard to use language. And when you are able to hold somebody in a different reality and with love, and to honor their autonomy of choice, that is where you have the opportunity to create this softening, actually. If you're one of those people who can create the softening, this is how you're doing it. You're honoring their reality rather than resisting it. Resisting it hardens the edges between realities, and accepting and honoring different realities softens those edges and creates a place where we can be together with people who we aren't normally able to have that togetherness with. Coming back to that idea of portals into shifting into a different reality, whatever reality you're born into, that's going to be your dominant reality, although some of us are born into one reality and can feel the presence of one of the other ones. For instance, I was born into the reductionist reality, and as I became aware of the multi-dimensional reality, that was attractive to me, and I started moving in circles of people that were in that reality. I started interacting with media, books, and having direct communication with the spiritual beings and multidimensional beings. So slowly shifted over into that reality, and that's my dominant reality now. Yeah, there's also cases where maybe a child is born into one reality, say an animist reality, and then maybe their family moves and they start going to school in a Western school, or something happens to their family and they're maybe adopted or raised by people in another culture. If it happens before the age of 5, is the information I'm getting, then they will shift into the new reality seamlessly. And if it happens after the age of 5, they will have this sense of dissonance of the one that they are anchored in, the original one, and this new one that feels very different. And that can be very confusing. That can be very painful. Yeah, it can be very hard to hold on to the old one because of the immersion in the new one, kind of like learning a new language or being immersed in a language and forgetting your original one. But it's still there, and then it becomes a personal life choice, which one you ultimately choose when you become an adult. I want to invite anyone listening to this to hold people that you meet who are clearly in another reality with gentleness, because the judgment that we have of people who are not following the rules or seeing the reality that we live in, it can be very damaging, especially if you take action based on those judgments, or you say things based on those judgments. But even just the vibration of the judgment that you have of these people who are in a different reality is damaging and injurious. And so to hold people in other realities with respect and love, and knowing that they are following the rules of their own reality and they are totally aware of what's real. They just have a different reality. All right, well, that's it for now. Thank you for listening.